Hey everyone, Keith Chapman again with the Relating Well podcast, doing a video podcast. This is Dude here with me today. He's going to help me out. Okay, so today we're going to talk about staying present in the moment, being in the moment. And we want to talk about how that's not possible. And it is possible. And it's not at all possible. So I've heard this phrase, being present, staying present in the moment, and I've heard it a lot in the last few years. Maybe it's because I've been doing this type of work, and so I'm listening and reading and doing these things to recover my heart, which, by the way, I am not a licensed counselor or therapist or psychologist. I'm just a guy with some experience and about 8 years of this line of work of recovering my own heart and my relationships and my relationship with myself. So maybe it's because I've been doing that I hear more and more about staying present, being present, or maybe it's, maybe it is starting to gain some popularity as a notion. So I heard this research one time that really spoke to my experience. And I think that's what I want to do in these podcasts as much as I can, is like find things that people have either written about or there's research done on it, but then it also speaks true out of my own experience or the experience of someone else. And that's what happened. As soon as I heard this, I thought, yeah, that's how it is for me. And the research basically says that it is pretty much impossible to stay present in the moment. Our minds are, and by the way, the research that I found was through the University of Pittsburgh. If you want to check that out, I'll try to put a link below. But our minds are constantly going back into our story, history, or projecting forward in fear and preparation. And they're doing largely the second one to try to prevent the scary stuff from the past. So it is literally impossible for our minds to be present in the moment. And so a lot of the work that you'll hear in being present in the moment things is kind of trying to switch off our minds, which is ultimately impossible to do completely. We all have those moments where we can shut it down, slow it down, and it is like, now I am present. But when things are happening and things are coming our way, we hear people talking, there's events happening, circumstances happening, our minds are going to keep doing that. They're going to go back and forward. So my experience of being actually able to be more present in the moment is to be able to realize more of my story from the past, to be able to realize where my mind is going in the past, and in addition, where it's going in the future. So the two ways I've been able to practice that I've been shown by other people who have done this work is I can look at my story and process my feelings around it. And in that way, because what would happen before is my mind would travel back, but it would get so scared of the feelings that were occurring by even glancing back at it, which I was doing subconsciously, and we all do subconsciously, that it would get so scared that it would go to something else. And that's how it stole me from being present. But the more I was able to look back at my story and realize what I felt and begin to feel those feelings again, kind of like feeling them again for the first time, so to speak, because when they happened and I was young, I instantly would go into survival, and I would only feel them for a split second. And then I worked for 40 years of my life to keep pushing them down and keep them from happening again. So until I experienced them again, I couldn't look back at my story. And then it would steal me from being present in the moment because my mind was pulling information from my story, but it wasn't willing to go there. I was too scared. The feelings were too intense or too hard. So it's interesting that I wanted to do this podcast because it's interesting that the ability to be more present in the moment has a parallel ability to stare back at the past. And I think that's why, that one of my favorite TV show pretty much is This Is Us. And I think one of the reasons it's so powerful is it shows these things happening to Kevin and Kate and Randall as an adult, or whoever else in the show as well. And then all of a sudden you see the flashback from when they were a kid and the story that paralleled that situation. And that's what's so powerful. I think we need to be able to do that with our own story, or else we're not able to be present in the moment. The other way is going forward, which is what our mind will do sometimes to protect us from the past, is it'll escape the moment by going forward. And that has to do with fear. And some of it's healthy. It's like preparation for what could be coming, keeping ourselves safe. But a lot of it is projection and keeping ourselves safe from things that aren't really a threat. But it seems like a threat because it's touching on our story, right? So the way that I think that's helped me with where my mind does go in the future is to be honest about my fears. And so I was shown to do what was called a fear inventory. And it's funny, my first fear inventory I ever did was pretty much everything I had listed had already happened. So that's how much in denial I was of how afraid I was, is I was afraid of things that had already happened, but I wasn't even ready to admit. Then as time went on, I was able to say, oh, okay, I'm afraid of this. And the more I listened to other people's fears, and the more I listened to what fears sound like in general, which I didn't know I had any, the more I was able to say, yeah, I pretty much have all those in some way, shape, or form. A really helpful tool, by the way, is the Enneagram. Each different type of the Enneagram, it's a personality thing. It's each different type has their own core fear. I've found, if I'm honest with myself, that if I can go through all those, I pretty much have all those fears too. So that's a good tool to use. But, I also wanted to record this because if there's anything we're good at, it's being hard on ourselves. And, and so it's really easy to shame myself for not being present in the moment because I'm thinking about this from the past, or I'm thinking about this in the future. But that's how we work. Now, I think there is always areas of progress that we want to reach, right? We always want to make progress. But the cool thing about doing relationship work and work on recovering my heart is it gives me these areas to look at progress in areas where I didn't even know there was a measure of that or what I was looking at. And so I think one measure of progress in this topic is obsession. Like obsession is where I go out into the future and I'm just so super stuck there that, I cannot get my mind off that and come back. And so being present in the moment for me now is a lot more like, oh, I'm in the past. Oh, that's what's going on. Oh, that's what I'm feeling. And I'm back. Oh, I'm in the future. Oh, that's what I'm going. That's what I'm afraid of. Oh, and I'm back. And so I think that's the progress that we want to move to. So it's not to say that these two places are always good. Because if they become a fear mechanism, we really are, it is going to steal us from the moment. But also to be gentle with ourselves, that's like, hey, the way that we are in the moment is to recognize where we are in the past. And the way we are in the moment is to recognize what we're going to in the future. And so it's not wrong. It's not wrong. That's how our minds work. And so really to say that there's no way that we're ever truly fully present in the moment, but as close as we'll get is seeing all of that, past, present, and future. I hope this helps you. It has really helped me. I think it's a cool notion, and I think it points us to where we need to do our work around facing our feelings of the past, feeling them fully so that we don't get stuck there, or because here's what happens is a lot of times as an adult, when things seem really big and bothersome, I thought that the problem was the circumstance. Well, it turns out that the problem is my fear. And the problem is probably something that happened anytime from age 3, or for me, maybe birth to age 9 or 10. 99% of those big bothersome things just are reflecting on my story. They're just pulling up my story for me. And so that's what happens. And so to be able to look at those head on and feel them. And some people, I've heard it say, a couple times, we should glance at our past, but not stare at it. And it's like, no, see, that for me is going to create the very problem I'm talking about. If we only glance at the past, then when the past hits us in a circumstance, it is going to steal us from the moment. If we can stare at the past and feel it fully, I think it will allow us to be more present in the moment. Hey, best wishes, relating well. I need to ask a favor of you. If you like this video, please share it with your friends on Facebook, the Relating Well podcast page on Facebook. Invite your friends. It's really easy to do. Click invite and you can just select everyone if you want. But also, you're probably watching this on YouTube right now. So if you would, go ahead and click the subscribe button, and then you can hit the little bell icon, and that'll turn on notifications for when we post new podcasts. So take care. Best luck relating well.
As these arrows fly above, never saw them coming round. Will you take me as I am through the Badlands?